Good afternoon, everyone. It's serotonin. I'm still sick, so I might be coughing occasionally during this video. I apologize for that. Um, so for those of you in the music world, for those of you that care about music, you may already know that Neil Peart, who was the drummer for Rush, died recently. Now, for those of you who don't know Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, he is pretty unbelievable. I would say, like, he's probably one of the most influential drummers out there, and I'm pretty sure he was a huge, massive influence on. Oh, I'm exposing myself so much here on the drummer from Motley Crue. Little side note: I was actually worked for a music festival for a very long time, and I'm massively into music. I just don't really talk about it much anymore because I'm so disappointed in what goes on in the music industry and the entertainment industry. I just don't really talk about music a whole lot anymore. But anyway, I do know a lot about music. Um, so what I found very interesting, and the whole reason I'm doing this video, is that Neil Peart died of brain cancer. And they didn't actually get into it in a lot of the footage that I'm trying to find, or a lot of the articles I'm trying to find for this video, didn't actually find anyone explaining exactly what this brain cancer was. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Glioblastoma. Glioblastoma. Okay, and you're going to want to know why I'm doing this? Okay. Glioblastoma, and this is the whole reason I'm really doing this. Down knee. Okay. Okay. Drummer from Rush, big, massive Canadian band, dies of a rare brain cancer. Gord Downie, who is the lead singer of a very big and important Canadian band called the Tragically Hip, died 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, but 2.5 years ago, I guess. At a very young age, at 53. Also from glioblastoma. So why am I bringing this up? Well, this is something maybe not everybody knows about. First of all, you may have never even heard of Gord Downie. Most of you have probably heard of Rush. They've been around since the 70s. Gord Downie was the lead singer of the Tragically Hip, who were sort of infamously known for not really giving a crap about being big outside of Canada. They were super duper, super massive Canadian patriots. Like, massive. Like, every single song, pretty much. Maybe not the first album, but definitely most of them after that. Gord Downie wrote about Canada. People he knew, history, what it was like to be there. Like, he just, in different parts of the country and stuff. He was a history buff. He was Canada's _1 fan. Actually getting a little emotional talking about this. I'm really surprised because I didn't expect that. A lot of people were really upset when he died. So one of the things that he did that maybe a lot of people, even in Canada, don't know about was that right before so in September 2016, he was set to release an album and a graphic novel about residential schools. And I'm just going to go back to here. He died pretty much a year later. And for those of you that don't know, I hope that there's not too many of you that don't know about the horrific secrets of the residential schools. They were absolutely 100% responsible for the deaths of any child that they had in their care at the time. Basically what happened was the quote-unquote church would go into these communities, and they were trying to save the souls of the people in these communities, in these First Nations communities. And they separated the kids from the parents and they took them to these residential schools, which were exactly what you think is a boarding school. And there are absolutely horrific tales. I know that, I think it's like Brampton, not Brampton. It's closer to Hamilton, but it was one of the most like one of the largest grave sites of children from residential schools was found there. There was a whole bunch more found in Vancouver. If you want to know more about it, I'm going to put a link to Kevin Annett, who is actually he is a former minister who stumbled upon basically finding out that a lot of the people that run these reserves where the residential schools are connected to, I suppose, or maybe even not. But he discovered basically that a lot of reserve leaders were actually stealing from their people and making deals with big corporations and having people from their own communities kidnapped, murdered, sacrificed. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. So Kevin Annett is a real incredible person. He really puts himself on the front line, and I'm a huge fan of his. But anyway, Gord Downie was working on this, and it was a pretty big, in my opinion, a pretty big red flag that came up when he died. Now, here we are so many years later. I just want to show you this. And I remember at the time, wait. No, it's not in this one. I'll find it here. Okay, there's a very, Gord Downie. There's a very famous picture, where, Justin Trudeau is pretty much weeping when he's talking about the death of Gord Downie. And there's this picture here, which I found very interesting. Now, we know the globalist traitor that Trudeau has turned out to be. I actually think this may have been a moment of regret, a moment of realizing what he has to do, what he is responsible now for since becoming the prime minister to a deeply cabal involved country. I don't actually even think we're a country. I just think we're kind of a territory that belongs to, I don't even know. I don't even know if we're a real country at all. It makes me wonder more and more. But anyway, yeah, it just very interesting, because trust me, if anyone was going to stand up and say something about what is happening to our country, about the shameful ignorance of the Canadian government over the reparations needed to be made with the people, the communities that were afflicted like this. And this is not just the Native population. This is not just the Indigenous population. This is anyone in Canada who's been trafficked. They have so much blood on their hands. It's unbelievable. And Gord Downie is a Canadian patriot. He was a Canadian patriot. And he would make all of those claims of patriotism being akin to Nazism or white supremacy, he would make that look like absolute garbage trash talk. Because he was even, Gord Downie, given name, tribal, he was even given, a spirit name. I'm going to start crying again. Man who walks among the stars. Now, this is also very interesting, because I would be very curious to find out who was actually present for that. Perry Bellegarde. Okay, you know what? Hang on here. Because I don't know if that's supposed to be like a nice thing that they said about him, or if this is like, you're going to be walking among the stars, as in like you're going to be sleeping with the fishes, right? Okay. This is interesting. See, now the reason I'm just checking this guy out because of these other elders in indigenous communities who have basically been super underhanded. Um, Interestingly enough, Jody Wilson-Raybould is the daughter of a tribal chief um, who lives out in BC. I've mentioned this in another video, and her father was actually one of the first people to make a connection between the RCMP and the Picton pig farm. So we can see why she got thrown under the bus. Anyway, I don't know. It's all so messy. It's all so dirty. I don't know what any of this means, but it stinks, and I wanted to share it with you because it's stinking up my house. Anyway, you can let it stink up yours for a bit. Tell me what you think. Am I onto something? Am I not? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Talk to you soon.